The folks that just left, were you meeting with them or y'all both meeting with them?
He did, I did not.
Who were they?
They came in here, chief was sitting in the office. I asked him, was it okay to talk to him? I'm assuming that is another batch of private investigators. In Texas, yeah.
Okay, I got an email from him too.
So they just showed up unannounced and...
They came today. I told the chief they was coming. I asked him, was it okay to speak to them? And I spoke to them and I listened to what they had to say.
And her name was Sheila?
Sheila.
Is that what she said? Sheila. But so have they already looked at the case? I couldn't tell if he was saying we're...
They come over. They come over. They're saying they got this new evidence. I don't know what it is.
They got new evidence?
That's what they say.
No.
But I've heard all this before. And they was wanting to look at the case file, and I told them we don't have that case anymore, that the AG's office has the case. They want to see the physical file. I told them I couldn't show it to them anyway without the chief's approval. So I don't know exactly what they were trying to accomplish, but, you know, the Andrachios, they've hired more private investigators than any case I've ever heard of.
Well, and that's what I was trying to figure out, if they were just somebody that came to offer assistance or if they were hired by the Andrachios. I couldn't really tell what the...
Well, they're saying they're offering assistance, but I do know that I got an email a good while back from the Andrachios saying they hired a private investigator out of Texas that's supposed to have all this new evidence. They didn't show it a while ago. So I just, you know, I'm sure they'll be contacting y'all because they want to talk to whoever's got the case file, and I just told them what the case file was. But I listened to everything they had to say, but I hadn't seen the new evidence part yet. They didn't show me.
Well,
nothing.
that's what I was trying to figure out. He kind of hem-hawed around. I couldn't figure out if he was saying, like,
I keep hearing the Andrachios.
uncover it, or we already have it. So.
Well, they're saying they already have it, but they don't say what it is they already have. But this deal about the Andrachio give me some new evidence. I don't know what evidence they're talking about. They didn't give me anything.
Well, and I guess that's why I called the chief, and I don't know if you told the chief that you would come by
I did.
that same day, so it was kind of ironic. But and my only conversations have been with Todd. I told you that the other day, and Chief, I know you and I talked in passing about it, that when they were trying to set up that meeting, I think both of y'all were there back, like started in November, but you ended up meeting in December. Mm-hmm. And long story short with me, he called and I asked him, instead of setting up separate meetings, could I just attend y'all's? And he said he would ask and he'd call me back. And he never did. And then I get a letter from Ray by certified mail that essentially says, oh, he didn't show up. And the chief said, if you wanted to be here, you'd have been here. So the chief and I talked later. And that's that was it until they called wanting the DNA tested. They keep saying there's some DNA that the crime lab has that had not been tested.
Where's that coming from?
According to them, the crime lab told them that there was something there and that their lab the crime lab had tested everything it could test, but that they had contracted with a lab that said they could do testing, I guess that's more detailed. And I told them, I can't release that I'll make contact with AG's office. But that's kind of been it.
They did mention something about sending something to another lab.
I think that's when Brad 2 had it, wasn't it?
Yeah, with it, I saw it in here on the crime lab stuff. It said, let's see.
But that, Chief, led to, I offered and said, I will be happy to contact the AG's office.
Right.
You know, I'll ask them. I mean, you need to understand what it's going to be worth if you pay for it and the crime lab can't do it.
That's going to be what they're talking about right there on the gun.
On the gun?
Yeah. That's crime lab stuff is in there.
Well, of course, now, what DNA they're looking for on the gun, because it's a gun that belonged to Andrachio. He left it at the apartment for Whitley, and early in the evening he's supposed to been holding it to his head, and Swearinger took it away from him. So there's.
And my understanding is I think that is why the attorney at the AG's office said we're not going to pay for it, and it's really no good if you pay for it. Like if you send it to a lab, you're still paying for the results. But my understanding, and I haven't spoken directly to the AG that's handled it, and they're sitting here and can answer it. But their point was kind of, even if it comes back that it's Whitley, or if it's
If I
Tilly,
pass my gun all the way around the room and we send it off for DNA and y'all DNA comes back on it,
I don't disagree with you.
yeah.
I got an answer for that. The reason that we did not do that is because we contacted the crime lab and they put it in writing that if they test this sample, it will be completely destroyed forever. There's no getting it back because it's so small. And our thinking was, okay, let's not do that just in case something comes out later.
That you might
That we
want
might
it or
be-
compare
yes.
it, or, but that conversation with them led to Miss Androcchio sending the AG's office an email saying, I don't know if you know, but there's a new DA in town. She wants the DNA sent off. She wants the file boxed up and sent back to her. But she says in her email to them that the Androcchios brought me new evidence. That prompted me to call Mr. Androcchio and say, hold up. And I have that phone conversation recorded. And Jay, you and I talked about it the other day, but when I confronted him about that, if you've never even met me, you sure haven't brought anything to me, he says that he brought it to Dubose and Arrington. And
I brought Dubo, but he didn't bring it to
You were
Arrington.
sitting here together when they met with us, so you had to see it if you gave it to me.
I ain't seen no evidence.
And I have gotten every letter they sent is certified, but I stopped over them, to be honest with you. I don't even know them anymore. But they would say things that you supposedly said that you, what the hell, where was I when I said that?
right.
You know?
Absolutely, I understand. Well, and I guess, so at the time, I recorded the conversation. I remember listening, like, to make sure it recorded, and then didn't really have anything else to do with it. They then started saying, we set up this meeting, she didn't show up, she's refused to meet with the family, which prompted me to break out my little recorder and go back and listen to it. And in that conversation, and that's why I called you last week, it dawned on me, they're saying they took new evidence to the police department. I should probably make an inquiry about what that was. And if you tell me none, that's okay. I just didn't want to say none. And you and I, like I said, we had kind of talked in passing that it was more of the same. I think you said at some point they even mentioned that they thought maybe somebody else was involved, that it wasn't even these two anymore. But I had never just point blank asked the question, what did they bring you? What evidence did they bring? And I do feel like, Chief, that they're calling whatever it is new evidence, because when I first spoke with Todd, I said, this has been presented to a grand jury. The standard practice across the state and the country is, either new evidence or some evidence that we had but we didn't present it. That's the standard for representing it to the grand jury. But I do think that across the board they have tried to play everybody against one another.
They do.
But I also understand, and y'all understand, it was not handled properly in the beginning. And if I were them,
That we all agree on.
right, I'd be suspect. I'd be suspicious. I don't blame them for feeling like the system has failed them. I just think that at some point you have to trust that other people have looked into it. People that have no connection to Meridian have looked into it. And I'm not going to turn anybody away that wants to bring something forward. And all that prompts to say, after you and I talked, Jay showed up and said that he did feel like that there was sufficient evidence on a theory to bring it forward. And I just want us all to be on the same page. I don't want to say, y'all don't have any new evidence, and then all of a sudden, well, she never asked us, or yes we do, or we're working on it. Yeah, we're actively working it. We've opened it back up.
I don't have any new evidence. I didn't get to present anything on what I had to start with. Bilbo made the decision to send it to the AG's office, which that's Bilbo's decision. I never got to present the case, what I thought happened, so that's that.
And I guess part of it, yes, Bilbo ultimately made the decision to request the AG's assistance, but it's like I told you last week, and you said you didn't know this. I mean, the family requested that Bilbo recuse himself, and I think at that point, he doesn't really have an option if he pushes forward, knowing that he believes that the evidence
The
points
family
to
offered.
suicide.
The family asked for him to recuse himself or recuse me.
Him. They asked that he recuse himself. Now,